Imagine you're 10 years old and you are standing in the courtyard of your home and you're watching your father, who is, for all intents and purposes, basically a billionaire in your society, right? A highly respected public figure.
Right, a real elite.
Yeah, and he's throwing this massive, highly publicized charity event, like the biggest of his life. He has called the press, he's invited all the elites, and he is publicly announcing that he is giving away his entire fortune, every single thing he owns.
Total surrender.
Exactly. It is supposed to be this, this ultimate act of philanthropy, just a complete surrender of worldly wealth. But, and here's the catch, because you live in his house, because you actually see what goes on behind closed doors, you notice something completely contradictory happening.
Yeah, the reality doesn't match the PR.
Right. He isn't giving away his actual wealth. He's basically boxing up the absolute worst, most broken, obsolete junk he owns, things he was literally going to throw in the trash anyway. And he's handing this junk out to the poor with this pious look on his face, claiming it as some grand sacrifice.
It's pure performative charity.
Exactly. So you're 10 years old and you are watching this glaring, undeniable hypocrisy just unfold. What do? I mean, do you stay quiet out of respect? Or do you call him out in front of everyone?
And, that choice right there, the choice between preserving social harmony and pointing out a fundamental uncomfortable truth, that is the friction point where our entire journey begins today.
It's such a heavy scenario.
It is, but it's not a modern hypothetical. This is actually the inciting incident of the Katha Upanishad, which is this incredible ancient Indian text composed somewhere between the 6th and 1st centuries BCE.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. The father in this text is sage Vajrashravasa, sometimes he's known as Udalak, and the boy, the 10-year-old, is his son Nachiketa. And by choosing to speak up, to actually confront his father's performative charity, Nachiketa triggers this wild chain reaction that ends with him standing face-to-face with Yama, the literal god of death.
Which is just an insane escalation.
Oh, completely. And for this deep dive, we are using this narrative along with a really fascinating layer of modern academic comparative philosophy.
Which we'll get into later, yeah.
Right, specifically comparing this text to Plato's Phaedo, which chronicles the final hours of Socrates. We're going to use all of this to extract a framework for how we, process mortality, meaning, and just the mechanical workings of our own minds.
Because honestly, we are exploring the ultimate blank map here. We usually have this GPS for life, right? You go to school, you get a job, buy a house, retire. But when we look at the reality of death, that roadmap just entirely vanishes. We are left looking at a sheer drop-off.
It's the great unknown.
Yeah. And the ancient text we're exploring today was designed to be a flashlight in that specific darkness. So our mission in this deep dive is to take the mystical, the philosophical, and, the psychological insights from Nachiketa's encounter with death and translate them into a very practical lens for you, the listener, to view your everyday choices.
That's a great way to put it.
So let's just get straight into the mechanics of this inciting incident. Sage Vajrashravasa is performing what's called the Visvahita sacrifice. And the sources detail that this specific ritual requires the performer to give away absolutely all of their earthly possessions. It's an all-or-nothing proposition, right?
Yeah, that's right. The term Visvahita actually translates roughly to conquering the universe. And the underlying philosophy of the ritual is this really profound paradox. The idea is that the only way to truly conquer the universe is to relinquish your attachment to it.
You master the material world by proving you don't need it.
Exactly. You prove you're beyond it. In ancient Vedic culture, performing this sacrifice would elevate a sage to the absolute highest echelon of spiritual and social prestige. It was a very public declaration of ultimate detachment. And Vajrashravasa wanted that prestige. He wanted the societal applause of being the man who gave it all away.
But he doesn't give it all away. I mean, Nachiketa looks at the actual donations being made, and he sees cows. And in an agrarian society, obviously, cows are wealth. But the text is brutally specific about the condition of these cows, isn't it?
Oh, it really is. It doesn't hold back.
Yeah. They are described as cows that have drunk their last water, eaten their last grass, given their last milk, and are barren. They are essentially livestock that are days away from dying.
They're completely useless.
Right. So the sage is keeping all the healthy, productive cattle hidden away, and he's parading these dying animals as his grand, universe-conquering sacrifice. It's like a modern billionaire donating a warehouse full of broken, obsolete Windows 95 computers to a charity just for the massive tax write-off, and then issuing a press release about his grand philanthropic vision.
That is a perfect analogy, yeah. And the psychological dynamic playing out here is just incredibly modern. Vagasravasa represents the accumulated compromises of adulthood.
What do you mean by that?
Well, as people age and build wealth or status, the instinct for self-preservation often overrides the idealism they might have held in their youth. The sage understands the mechanics of the ritual, right? But he has somehow convinced himself that he can outsmart the system.
He thinks he found a loophole.
Exactly. He thinks he can get the spiritual credit and the social glory without actually enduring the pain of real loss. He is deeply rationalizing his own greed.
And Nachiketa just refuses to accept that rationalization. He walks right up to his father during the ceremony in front of everyone and starts asking a very pointed question. He says, "To whom will you give me?"
Yeah.
And he doesn't just ask it once, he asks it repeatedly. "To whom will you give me? To whom will you give me?" The father ignores him at first, then gets increasingly frustrated until finally he snaps and yells out in a fit of rage, "I give you to death," or "I give you to Yama."
Right. And this confrontation exposes the danger of absolute purity colliding with adult compromise. Because Nachiketa possesses that black and white moral clarity that is so typical of children.
They see right through the BS.
They really do. A 10-year-old hasn't yet learned how to navigate the gray areas of social decorum, or the subtle hypocrisy that adults use to just function in complex societies. When Nachiketa asks, "To whom will you give me?" he is attacking the core requirement of the Visvihita sacrifice.
Because a son is considered wealth, too.
Exactly. A son was considered a man's most valuable possession. Nachiketa is basically telling his father that if he truly wants to fulfill the conditions of the ritual, he needs to give away something he actually values. He needs to give away his son.
Okay, but I have to push back on Nachiketa's behavior here for a second. Because reading the text, it's very easy to frame him as this enlightened spiritual prodigy. But functionally, practically, isn't he just ruining his dad's biggest public moment?
It definitely looks that way on the surface.
Right. I mean, he's being a pest. He's nagging his father on a technicality during a massive, stressful event. It feels a little less like profound spiritual insight and more like, a kid who won't stop asking why until the parent just completely loses their mind.
I get that. The surface behavior absolutely mimics petulance. But the underlying motivation is crucial to understanding the Vedic mechanics of karma.
Okay, how so?
Well, in the context of ancient India, a ritual of this scale was not merely a symbolic gesture. It wasn't just a party. It was a cosmic technology. It operated on strict, almost physical laws of cause and effect.
Like physics.
Yes, exactly like physics. If a ritual of this magnitude was performed fraudulently, if you claimed to the gods you were giving everything but secretly held back, the karmic blowback would be catastrophic. The text implies that performing a flawed sacrifice would condemn the performer to a state of profound spiritual darkness.
Oh, wow. So it's not just a matter of the gods getting their feelings hurt because you lied. It's like miswiring a high-voltage electrical panel. If you don't follow the schematic perfectly, the house just burns down.
That is exactly it. The cosmological laws are impersonal and absolute. And Nachiketa understands the wiring. His persistence isn't him being a brat. It stems from genuine terror for his father's soul.
Oh, so he's trying to save him.
Yes. He loves his father. He sees him standing in a puddle of water while holding a live wire. That repeated question, "To whom will you give me?" is a desperate attempt to snap his father out of his delusion before the spiritual circuit is closed. He is offering himself as the genuine sacrifice to save his father from the karmic consequences of his own hypocrisy.
Man, that completely reframes the entire interaction. It's an act of profound bravery disguised as annoyance. And when the father yells, "I give you to death," he seals the deal. Because words in these ancient texts, they carry physical weight, don't they?
I absolutely do. They manifest reality.
Right. So by speaking it out loud, he has officially made Nachiketa the offering. And Nachiketa, instead of crying or arguing or saying, "I was just kidding," he just accepts it. He takes his father literally. He essentially says, "Okay, I belong to Yama now." And he departs for the realm of the dead.
And this transition from the physical world to the realm of Yama brings us to the actual geography of the myth. Because our sources point out that this isn't just taking place in some abstract, floaty, philosophical space. The story is anchored in a specific physical location.
Yeah, I found this part fascinating. Nachiketa Tal.
Right. It's a high-altitude lake.
Yeah, situated in the Uttarkashi district of Uttarakhand, roughly 8,000 feet above sea level. And local tradition holds that the lake was created by Udalak, the father, in his grief after realizing what he'd done. And nearby is this cave formation known as Yam Dwar, the gateway of death.
Tying profound mystical transitions to treacherous physical geography really gives the story stakes, doesn't it?
It really does. It reminds you that this journey to face mortality isn't just a safe thought experiment in the classroom. It feels visceral and cold. So Nachiketa travels to Yamdwar. He arrives at the abode of death. But there is a massive anticlimax here.
Yeah, Yama isn't home.
Exactly. The god of death is out on business. Doing god of death things, I assume. So Nachiketa sits down at the door, and he just waits. For 3 days and 3 nights, he waits without eating a single bite of food or drinking a drop of water.
And the mechanism of this waiting period is a vital concept in Indian philosophy. It's known as tapasya.
Tapasya.
Yeah. We often translate tapasya as, patience or spiritual discipline. But the root of the word tapas literally means heat.
Heat.
Yes. The ancient framework viewed the human body and mind as a closed, energetic system. Every time we engage our senses, eating, talking, reacting to stimuli, looking around, we dissipate energy outward. But when a person completely restricts all outward expenditure of energy through severe fasting and silence, like Nachiketa is doing, that energy has nowhere to go.
So it turns inward.
Exactly. It begins to build internally. It generates an intense, concentrated spiritual heat.
Okay, so he isn't just sitting there on the porch being polite. He is essentially turning himself into a metaphysical pressure cooker.
That's a great way to visualize it.
He's building up so much internal force that he is altering the environment around him.
Right, and the buildup of tapas creates this undeniable cosmic friction. So when Yama finally returns to his abode after 3 days, the reaction is entirely unexpected. Yama isn't this intimidating, wrathful deity asserting his dominance over a mortal.
No, he's freaking out.
He is horrified. He realizes that a Brahmin, a seeker of truth, and a guest has been sitting at his doorstep neglected for 3 days. In the cultural code of the time, neglecting a guest was a grave sin that could literally destroy a household's prosperity. So the god of death actually apologizes to the 10-year-old boy.
The optics of this are just wild to me. The entity that every human being spends their entire life running from, the terrifying, absolute finality of death, comes home, drops his briefcase and says, "Oh my goodness, I am so sorry I didn't offer you a glass of water. Please forgive me."
It really does shatter the horror movie perception of mortality, doesn't it?
Completely.
The subversion of Yama's character is a very deliberate psychological tool used by the text. It demystifies death by presenting Yama not as a monster, but as a bureaucrat.
A cosmic administrator.
Exactly. He is bound by the exact same rules of hospitality, karma, and duty as any living human. The sources note that approaching Yama with the respect due to, quote, God's representative, fundamentally shifts the seeker's relationship with mortality.
Because if death is simply a functionary performing a necessary universal task, the primal terror dissolves. You can negotiate with an administrator. You can learn from an administrator.
Precisely. And to make amends for his cosmic faux pas, Yama offers Nachiketa 3 boons, 3 wishes to compensate for the 3 days of fasting.
One for each night.
Right. And this sets up the structure for the rest of the text. Let's look at how strategically Nachiketa uses these wishes. For his first boon, he asks that his father be free of anger, that his anxiety be calmed, and that he welcome Nachiketa back lovingly whenever he returns to the living world.
Okay, let's unpack this for a second. If Nachiketa is this detached, spiritually advanced prodigy who understands karma and the universe, why is his very first wish about making sure his dad isn't mad at him anymore? Doesn't that seem a little mundane?
It might seem mundane, but the strategic choice of the first boon establishes Nachiketa's psychological stability. Before attempting to pierce the ultimate veil of the universe, he resolves his earthly attachments.
He clears his baggage.
Exactly. He ensures that his pursuit of ultimate truth isn't fueled by a desire to escape unresolved family trauma or spite toward his father. By asking for his father's peace of mind, Nachiketa demonstrates that his detachment is born of clarity, not callousness. He proves his heart is pure, he loves his family, but he's not bound by their emotional turbulence.
That makes total sense. So, with the earthly realm sorted, he moves on to the second boon, and he asks Yama to teach him the Yajnavidya, which is this highly complex, highly guarded fire ritual that, when performed correctly, allows the practitioner to attain the heavenly realms. So he's securing the safety of his physical family with the first wish and securing a heavenly afterlife with the second.
Right, and the transmission of the Yajnavidya is a massive test of his intellectual capacity. Yama provides intricate details regarding the exact number of bricks required, their specific geometric placement, and the precise sequence of the flames.
It sounds like an architectural blueprint.
It is cosmic engineering, and Nachiketa repeats the instructions flawlessly back to Yama. The ability to grasp and retain this dense, complex system impresses Yama to such an extent that he offers an unprompted bonus. He decrees that from that moment on, the fire ritual will be known as the Nachiketa Vidya.
Oh, wow. He immortalizes the boy's name. So he has a clean relationship with his dad. He has the literal blueprint for heaven, and his name is etched into the cosmic mechanics. Most people would call it a day right there. You won the lottery. Take your chips and go home.
Absolutely.
But he still has one wish left, the third boon. And this is where the Katha Upanishad shifts from a fascinating myth into one of the most profound philosophical inquiries in human history. Nachiketa asks the ultimate question. He looks at Yama and says, when a person dies, there is a doubt. Some say the soul exists, others say it does not. I want you to teach me the true nature of death.
And the magnitude of that question triggers an immediate defensive reaction from Yama.
He starts backpedaling hard.
He really does. He attempts to dissuade the boy. Yama warns him that this specific mystery is so subtle, so profoundly difficult to grasp, that even the ancient gods remain confused by it. He begs Nachiketa to ask for literally anything else. He wants to be released from this specific promise.
Yeah, Yama tries to buy him off. The negotiation that follows is just intense. Yama opens the vault. He offers centenarian sons and grandsons. He offers massive herds of cattle, elephants, gold, and horses. He offers absolute rulership over the earth.
The ultimate VIP package.
Right. He conjures images of celestial maidens with chariots and musical instruments, pleasures that are utterly unattainable by mortals. He tells Nachiketa, I will make you the enjoyer of all your desires. Just do not ask me about death.
This negotiation is the ultimate stress test of Nachiketa's patrata.
Patrata?
Yes, which translates to his qualification or fitness to receive the highest knowledge. Mystical traditions operate on this premise that profound truth cannot be poured into an unpurified vessel.
Because it would break the vessel.
Or it would be corrupted.
Yeah.
If the seeker is still susceptible to the gravity of material desire, the knowledge will be misunderstood or used for selfish ends. Yama is subjecting Nachiketa to the absolute maximum threshold of human temptation just to see if the vessel will crack.
But Nachiketa's refusal isn't just a stubborn, teenager crossing his arms and saying no. He deconstructs the offer using this brutal, terrifying logic. He looks at this infinite buffet of pleasure and points out a structural flaw. He tells Yama, these things are transient. They literally end tomorrow.
Yes, the logic of impermanence.
But the deeper argument he makes, which I found fascinating, involves the concept of ohas. He argues that indulging in all these endless pleasures, listening to the music, watching the dances, amassing the wealth, will actively drain the vigor, the ojas, of his senses. Can you explain how that works mechanically?
Absolutely. The depletion of ojas maps remarkably well to our modern understanding of neurology and dopamine pathways.
Okay, I love this connection.
Yeah, so ojas represents the baseline vitality, the intrinsic spiritual and physical brilliance of the human organism. When you flood the system with extreme sensory gratification, which Yama is offering an infinite supply, the system has to adapt. It downregulates.
It builds a tolerance.
Exactly. To endure constant massive spikes of pleasure, the baseline sensitivity drops. The senses become fatigued. You need more and more stimulation to feel anything at all, which ultimately results in a state of chronic exhaustion and emptiness.
It is the ultimate hedonic treadmill. You win $1 billion, you buy the yacht, you eat the finest food every day, and 6 months later, you are sitting on the deck of the yacht feeling completely hollow because your neurological baseline has just reset. You burnt all your ojas trying to process the sensory overload.
That's the trap.
And Nachiketa also points out the economic futility of the offer. He says that wealth never truly satisfies a human being. It acts like salt water. The more you drink, the thirstier you get.
And one of our sources provides a chilling commentary on this exact point. It describes the fate of individuals who die while still consumed by unfulfilled material desires.
What happens to them?
The commentary suggests that such consciousnesses remain trapped in a sort of ghost world for hundreds of thousands of years. They wander in a state of perpetual anguish because they lack the physical apparatus to satisfy the cravings they spent a lifetime cultivating.
Because they don't have a body anymore.
Right. They build an identity entirely around acquiring things, eating things, feeling things physically, and when the ability to acquire is removed by death, they just burn in the fire of their own remaining greed.
That is terrifying.
It really is.
And Nachiketa looks directly at the god of death and drops a line that should honestly be carved in stone. He asks, what mortal, knowing they are decrepit, would want to live forever just to enjoy women and chariots.
It's a profound realization, because the physical presence of Yama serves as the ultimate reality check here. Yama is the embodiment of time and decay. Standing in front of death makes the impermanence of the physical world undeniable.
Yeah, Nachiketa realizes that accepting infinite wealth in a universe governed by time it's like accepting $1 billion in Monopoly money. It only has value within the boundaries of a temporary game. And once the game ends, and Yama, the guy standing right in front of him, guarantees that it always ends, the currency is completely worthless. Why trade eternal truth for temporary chips?
And when Yama realizes that Nachiketa sees straight through the illusion, that the boy's intellect cannot be blinded by the dopamine hit of ultimate power, his entire demeanor changes. The test is over.
He passed.
He passed. The boy is qualified. So Yama relents and agrees to answer the third question. But he doesn't start by drawing a map of the afterlife or explaining the physics of the soul. He starts by analyzing the exact mechanism of choice that Nachiketa just demonstrated.
He zooms out.
Right. He breaks down human behavior into two distinct, diverging paths.
And this brings us to the philosophical framework of Shreya and Preya, which is really the operational core of the Upanishad. Yama explains that every single waking moment, a human being stands at a crossroads. One path is Shreya, which is the good, the ultimately beneficial, the preferable. The other path is Preya, which is the pleasant, the delectable, the path of immediate sensory gratification.
Yes.
Let's ground this in the reality of the listener, because the battle between Shreya and Preya isn't happening in some mystic cave thousands of years ago. It's happening on your smartphone, in your kitchen, at your desk, today.
Every single day.
Right. Preya is the path of least resistance. It feels good immediately.
Yeah.
Is the sugary snack when you are stressed. It's hitting the snooze button instead of waking up to work out. It is doom scrolling for 2 hours to numb out anxiety instead of having a difficult conversation with your partner.
And we have to recognize that the biological deck is heavily stacked in favor of Preya.
Oh, totally.
Evolutionary biology wired the human brain to prioritize immediate survival and caloric intake. We are designed to seek the quick dopamine release because for hundreds of thousands of years, immediate gratification is what kept us alive in a harsh environment. Preya is the default setting of the human animal.
So it's not even a moral failing initially, it's just hardware.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But Shreya, conversely, requires overriding that ancient biological hardware. It demands the sacrifice of short-term comfort for the sake of long-term, transcendent realization.
The struggle to choose Shreya is literally the struggle against our own neurological gravity. Doing the hard thing, whether that's meditating, exercising, focusing on a complex task, maintaining your integrity when lying would be easier. It feels uncomfortable in the present moment. But as Yama explains, and as Nachiketa already figured out, Preya drains your energy over time, leading to suffering, while Shreya builds your internal power, ultimately leading to liberation.
But the crucial nuance here, and we really need to emphasize this, is that Yama is not delivering a moralizing sermon.
Right, he's not wagging his finger.
No, he isn't claiming that Preya is evil or sinful in a dogmatic sense. He's describing an ontological reality, a simple law of cause and effect. Engaging constantly with the pleasant binds your consciousness to the transient material world.
Because you're constantly chasing the next hit.
Yes. And because the material world is constantly changing and decaying, anchoring yourself to it guarantees that you'll experience fear, loss, and suffering. Choosing Shreya is the process of detaching from the transient to anchor yourself in the eternal.
But this raises a massive practical question for me, and I'm sure for you listening too. If Preya is defined as anything pleasant, does choosing Shreya mean we have to eradicate all joy from our lives? I mean, do we have to sell all our possessions, move to a barren room, and eat unseasoned gruel for the rest of our days to achieve liberation? If enjoying a cup of coffee is Preya, are we doomed by our morning routine?
It's a very common misconception. The confusion arises from conflating the object with the attachment to the object.
Oh.
The cup of coffee, the comfortable bed, the enjoyable movie. These objects and experiences are entirely neutral in their own right. They do not possess an inherent binding power. The trap of Preya lies in the mind's attachment to the experience.
It's the I need this feeling.
Exactly. It is the belief that I need this coffee to be happy, or my identity is tied to the prestige of my job. You can experience the pleasant aspects of life without making them the foundational pillar of your existence. Shreya is the cultivation of an internal state that remains joyful and undisturbed, whether the pleasant objects are present or utterly destroyed.
Okay, so you can enjoy the scenery on a road trip without thinking you are the trees passing by the window.
That's a lovely way to frame it.
But to explain exactly how we achieve that level of detachment, how we actually manage the machinery of our own minds to choose Shreya over Preya, Yama delivers what I consider the absolute masterpiece of this text, the chariot analogy.
The chariot analogy is an extraordinarily precise cognitive map. It articulates the structure of human consciousness centuries before the advent of modern psychology.
It's brilliant.
Yama instructs Nachiketa to visualize the human being as a chariot assembly. The physical body is the chariot itself, the gross, material vehicle moving through the world. The horses pulling the chariot are the senses sight, hearing, touch, taste, smell. The road upon which the horses travel represents the infinite variety of sense objects in the world.
So you have this heavy wooden cart and these 5 powerful horses pulling it forward. Connecting the horses to the chariot are the reins. And Yama says the reins represent the mind, or manas, and holding those reins, standing at the front of the chariot, is the charioteer.
Right.
And the charioteer is the intellect, the buddhi, the capacity for discrimination and executive decision-making.
And the final component is the passenger. Sitting quietly in the back of the chariot is the Atman, the soul, the pure, unconditioned consciousness.
Just along for the ride.
Yes. And the entire assembly exists to serve the journey of the passenger. The mechanics of suffering and liberation are entirely dependent on the hierarchy of control within this system.
So let's look at what happens when the system breaks down, which, let's be honest, is the default state for most of us. If the charioteer, the intellect, is weak or distracted or just asleep at the wheel, it loses its grip on the reins. The mind goes slack. And what happens when powerful horses realize there is no tension on the reins?
They do whatever they want.
Exactly. A slack mind offers no resistance to the senses. The eyes see something beautiful and pull the chariot violently toward it. The nose smells something appetizing and drags the entire assembly in another direction. The horses bolt after every single patch of green grass on the side of the road.
And the chariot is jerked from impulse to impulse, crashing through the terrain.
Right. And the passenger in the back is battered, bruised, and taken on this chaotic, terrifying ride completely devoid of direction. This is the state of a human being entirely governed by Preya.
But if the charioteer is awake and highly trained, the dynamic flips entirely. A strong intellect grips the reins of the mind with absolute firmness. The tension translates to the horses. The senses are suddenly brought under strict control. They are no longer allowed to chase every distraction.
They stay on the path.
Yes. The charioteer navigates the horses smoothly down the road of Shreya, ensuring the passenger reaches the supreme destination safely.
And the precision of this ancient model maps so directly onto our modern understanding of brain architecture.
It's uncanny, really.
Yeah, because the intellect, the buddhi, functions essentially as the prefrontal cortex, the evolutionary newest part of the brain responsible for long-term planning, impulse control, and evaluating consequences. And the mind and the horses correlate to the limbic system and the amygdala, the ancient reactive centers driving emotion and immediate survival instincts. The Upanishad recognized that the key to human optimization is the prefrontal cortex actively subjugating the limbic system.
That's a perfect neurobiological translation.
But I do have to ask about the passenger, the Atman. If the soul is the most divine, immortal, perfect part of this entire setup, why is it just sitting in the back seat getting tossed around?
It's a very common question.
If the chariot is crashing because the charioteer is asleep, why doesn't the soul just climb over the seat, grab the reins, and drive the chariot itself?
Understanding the passive nature of the Atman is absolutely essential to unlocking Vedic philosophy. The Atman is pure, unadulterated consciousness. It is the silent witness. By its very definition, it does not possess the capacity for material action. It does not do things.
Okay, so it can't interact with the material world.
Right. Its mere presence provides the illumination, the baseline awareness that allows the intellect and mind to function. Think of it much like a battery providing power to a circuit board.
Oh, that makes sense.
The battery doesn't process the data. It doesn't run the software. It just powers the processor. The work of living, of pulling the reins, of suffering and learning, all of that is the exclusive domain of the intellect. The Atman remains eternally pristine, untouched by the dirt of the road, patiently waiting for the intellect to mature and steer the vehicle home.
Okay, so we have this brilliant analogy of a soul trapped in a physical body, engaging in a high-stakes dialogue about death and detachment to achieve liberation. Now, if you study philosophy, this scenario rings a massive, deafening bell.
Oh, a huge bell.
Because thousands of miles away in ancient Greece, an almost identical narrative was playing out.
Yes. The structural parallels between the Katha Upanishad and the philosophy of Plato are so profound that they have generated an entire subfield of academic research.
It's fascinating.
We are drawing heavily here on a specific comparative analysis by a scholar named Tubali, which examines the Katha Upanishad alongside Plato's Phaedo. And the Phaedo is a dialogue detailing the final hours of the philosopher Socrates before he is executed by the state by drinking hemlock.
In both stories, you have an ultimate master of death. Yama is the literal god of death. Socrates is a man who is actively dying, sitting in a prison cell, about to drink poison, but who is so completely devoid of fear that he spends his final hours lecturing his weeping friends about the immortality of the soul.
Right.
Both traditions fundamentally agree on the premise. The soul must be purified and systematically separated from the gravity of the physical senses to achieve freedom.
While the underlying premise aligns, Tubali's analysis highlights the radical divergence in their methodologies. The Phaedo is categorized as a transformative philosophical dialogue.
Meaning?
Meaning, the engine of transformation in Western philosophy is logic, dialectic argument, and the weaponization of doubt. Socrates does not ask his students to simply believe him blindly. He attempts to prove the soul's immortality through rigorous, step-by-step logical deductions.
He builds these elaborate syllogisms.
He does. He invites his students, Simmias and Cetes, to attack his arguments, and he counters their objections. It is an intellectual combat designed to exhaust the mind's fear through reason.
But the strategy has a glaring vulnerability, doesn't it?
It really does.
You can build the most beautiful logical argument in the world, but human emotion often refuses to obey logic. Even after Socrates delivers these absolute masterclasses in reasoning, even after he seemingly proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that the soul survives the body, his students are still an absolute mess. They are still crying.
And the persistence of their grief exposes the limitations of the dialectic method. The mind can agree with a premise intellectually without internalizing it existentially. There is a deeply tragic yet revealing moment at the end of the Phaedo.
I know exactly what you're going to say.
Yeah, after Socrates finishes explaining that his body is merely an empty shell that his soul will soon discard, his close friend Crito asks him, "How shall we bury you?"
Oh, it just misses the mark completely.
Socrates laughs, realizing that Crito fundamentally missed the entire point. Crito still identifies Socrates with the physical corpse that will soon lie on the floor.
The logic didn't penetrate the bone, but the Katha Upanishad, on the other hand, utilizes a completely different technology. It is described as a transformative mystical dialogue. Yama doesn't bother with syllogisms. He doesn't construct logical proofs for the existence of the Atman.
No, the Eastern mystical approach bypasses the intellect's demand for proof entirely. Yama relies on poetic inspiration, profound paradoxes, and rhythmic repetition to induce a shift in consciousness.
It's experiential.
Exactly. The goal is not to convince Nachiketa's mind that the soul exists. The goal is to cause Nachiketa's mind to completely collapse, allowing the immediate experiential realization of the soul to flood in. It is the difference between reading a meticulously detailed menu describing the chemical composition of water and having a bucket of ice water dumped over your head.
And the outcomes are radically different. Socrates' students are left in the prison cell to bury a body and continue the arduous, endless struggle of philosophical striving. They have to wake up the next day and keep arguing with their own doubts. But Nachiketa achieves something called Jivanmukti.
Yes, Jivanmukti.
He achieves complete, irreversible liberation while he is still alive, sitting right there in front of Yama. The duality between the teacher and the student just dissolves.
But we must acknowledge the practicality of both approaches. Plato's methodology is built for the reality of human frailty. He gives us the tools to navigate a world where doubt constantly creeps back in. The dialectic is a daily practice.
A workout routine.
Exactly. While the Upanishadic ideal of Jivanmukti demands a level of radical surrender, a complete annihilation of the ego and identity that is agonizingly difficult for an ordinary mind to achieve. Nachiketa succeeds because he is the flawless archetype of a seeker, completely unburdened by Preya.
So Plato gives you the daily workout routine to keep your existential muscles strong. The Upanishad gives you the coordinates for the ultimate peak of human potential. So let's look at those coordinates. What is the actual state of reality that Nachiketa realizes? What is waiting on the other side of this journey?
Yama describes the ultimate destination as the realization of the Akshara Brahman.
Akshara Brahman.
Yes. Akshara translates to the imperishable, the indestructible reality that underpins the entire cosmos. It is the canvas upon which the illusion of the universe is painted. When a seeker finally unifies their consciousness with this imperishable reality, they attain a state known as abhayam.
Of Hayam, absolute fearlessness.
Exactly, because the mechanism of suffering is severed.
Mhm.
Fear is entirely predicated on the possibility of loss, right?
Right.
We fear losing our wealth, our status, our loved ones, our physical health. But loss is only possible when we're in the realm of the perishable. If your identity is entirely merged with the Akshara Brahman, that which cannot be cut, burned, degraded, or destroyed by time, the concept of loss becomes a logical impossibility. Where there is no possibility of loss, there is no foundation for fear.
The text mentions that the fire ritual, the Nachiketa Agni, serves as a bridge to this fearless shore. And we established earlier that this isn't just about stacking physical bricks and lighting wood on fire. The physical ritual is a metaphor for an internal combustion.
Yes, the true Nachiketa Agni is the internal fire of severe self-discipline. It is the constant burning vigilance required to choose Shreya over Preya.
Every single time.
Every time. Every time you deny a transient destructive impulse, you throw a log onto that internal fire. As the fire grows hotter, it burns away the ego, the attachments, and the deeply ingrained habits of the limbic system. When the psychological impurities are finally incinerated, the bridge to the imperishable reality materializes within the mind.
And when Nachiketa crosses that bridge, Yama reveals the ultimate secret regarding the anatomy of the soul. He describes the Atman using a profound paradox. He says it is smaller than the smallest dust, greater than the greatest sky. And he specifically locates it within the human form, describing it as an Angutha Matra Purusha, a thumb-sized being residing in the cave of the heart.
The anatomical placement is highly symbolic yet deeply intentional. Ancient Indian physiology did not place the seat of pure consciousness in the brain. The brain was considered part of the mechanical apparatus of the mind and intellect.
The chariot and the reins.
Right. The cave of the heart represents the absolute impenetrable core of one's being. It's a space completely insulated from the chaotic noise of sensory input. Describing the infinite, sky-spanning Atman as thumb-sized is a poetic device to articulate that the vastness of the cosmos is entirely contained within the most intimate, localized center of your own existence.
So the scale is irrelevant because the soul exists outside the dimensions of physical space altogether. If this thumb-sized reality is truly indestructible, if it is neither born nor can it die, it radically rewrites the definition of death. It implies that the event we call death, the cessation of a heartbeat, the stopping of brainwaves, is merely a biological costume change.
Immortality, in the context of the Katha Upanishad, is not a post-mortem reward.
It's not a place you go.
No, it is not a shiny location you travel to after your physical body expires. Immortality is an ever-present state of consciousness. You achieve it the precise moment you stop falsely identifying yourself with the chariot and realize you have always been the passenger. When the desires clinging to the heart fall away, the mortal becomes immortal right here in the present tense.
That realization is so staggering that the sources note Yama himself, the administrator of mortality, prays for it. He utters the phrase, "May we be able to reach it," referring to that fearless shore. It proves that this state of abhayam is the absolute pinnacle of existence, transcending even the cosmic authority of the gods.
It is the ultimate sanctuary, the final refuge from the relentless grinding of time.
Bringing this massive cosmological framework back down to the pavement of our daily lives. We live in an era defined by baseline anxiety. Our nervous systems are constantly assaulted by notifications, global crises, economic pressure, and the relentless ticking of the clock. We are terrified. Finding this thumb-sized space of silence in the cave of the heart while stuck in bumper-to-bumper traffic or dealing with a screaming toddler feels impossible. How do we synthesize this?
The synthesis requires working backward from the ending to the beginning. You cannot instantly force your mind into a state of abhayam.
No magic pill.
No. You must begin where Nachiketa began. You start by confronting the hypocrisy in your own daily rituals. Where are you performing your own fake Visvahita sacrifice?
Or were you donating the barren cows?
Exactly. Where are you telling yourself you are giving your best effort but secretly holding back? You have to develop the ruthless, childlike honesty to identify where you are consistently choosing the immediate comfort of Preya over the necessary friction of Shreya. You begin the practice of waking up the charioteer.
You tighten the reins just a little bit more today than you did yesterday. The journey we've mapped out today covers immense ground. A 10-year-old boy's refusal to accept a flawed charity propelled him out of the physical world. He weaponized his own silence and patience to force the god of death into a negotiation. He was offered the ultimate, infinite VIP pass to material pleasure and dismantled the offer with the logic of impermanence. He learned the neurological mechanics of his own mind through the chariot and ultimately discovered that the fear of death is simply a case of mistaken identity.
The Katha Upanishad provides a complete blueprint for radical self-transformation, moving from the gross physical reality to the subtlest depths of consciousness.
To leave you, the listener, with a final piece of this puzzle to interact with directly, we have extensively detailed the architecture of the chariot. The body, the horses of the senses, the reins of the mind, the charioteer of the intellect, and that silent, eternal passenger on the back. As you go through the rest of your day, as you experience the friction of the world, I want you to run a diagnostic on your own awareness. When you feel a burst of anger, when you feel the pull of a distraction, or when you feel a moment of joy, who is actually experiencing it? Are you the horses merely reacting to the stimulus? Are you the exhausted charioteer trying to hold it all together? Or are you the silent passenger, completely untouched, simply observing the ride? Next time you look in the mirror, past the anxieties of the past and the pressures of the future, ask yourself, who is actually looking back?